it's not exactly the other side, but it's a corollary, and it is you know, I always think of Patanjali and one of his niyamas, which is self-study or introspection. And I think of the truth that we have to perfect every one of the yamas and niyamas before we can be free. And so we can't ignore one because it's hard. You know, we can, we've been doing that, but we can't, because we actually want to be free. And so I think it's very important to be honest about where we are, what kind of pain we're in, how we're suffering. I mean, just to acknowledge it. I don't mean necessarily to indulge it for too long or embellish it. I'm not talking about moving over to the emotional reaction. I'm talking about the true spiritual potential in it, if that makes sense to everybody. So we have to be honest about it. And sometimes, just like that story I just told, and this has come up many times in these last 25 years, even just living in the community, where I've had to say to people, that's not helpful to me, because people want to just tell us the truth. And they tell it in a way that's aside from us. So I've had to say several times, you're not helping me right now. Because they're just espousing a truth. They may not even be able to live by it, but they say it like, oh, you should know this. But in that moment, we're not knowing it. We can't get there. So again, this balance with compassion and with empathy, not just for other people, but for ourselves. And at the beginning of your statement, before it became a question, when you said, and it's harder to do that when we're in the throes of it. Of course it is. I mean, it's much harder. So we practice all the time, offering thoughts, questions, moments, offering them to God, and then sitting, literally sitting. We've asked the question, and then we're waiting for the answer. That's a spiritual practice. Remember how Swamiji said, if you just sit down and wait for something to come, it won't come. You have to formulate the question with clarity. He did it. He talked a lot about it with his music, but with everything. And ask the masters to come and show you the way. And the more serious you are about that, the more willing you are to hear their truth, the more it will come. But even the asking takes a lot of practice. And I was remembering this story the other day. I can't remember if I've told it out loud recently here. Somebody please stop me if I have. About my dear friend Donna, who many of you know. She's been my friend since we're 4 years old. We're very close. She had a daughter. I was very close with the daughter. Have I told this story recently? Okay. And I was sort of, the daughter's name is Ani. And I was her mother. I was just the second mother. Very often, if she was mad at Donna, I became the first mother. But that's how it was. And she got mad at me about something at some point in our lives. She's a very strong, willful not at all on a spiritual path. Now she's 50, but this point was a while ago. She was even younger. So there's no spiritual, no in those ways. She just quit talking to me. She would not talk to me. That went on for, I think it was almost 3 years. Somehow I was fine about it. I just knew it would resolve, but it was a big deal. Then I was visiting Donna one day, and Donna told me that a knee had had a melanoma, which is a serious cancer, skin cancer on her leg. So it's a serious cancer, not a horrible place to have it, though. They're much worse the higher up in the body they present. But her leg wouldn't heal from the surgery. So Donna said she's already missed a month of work and whatever. Well, it just jumped right into my heart. I hadn't spoken to her, and I just was deeply, it wasn't even upset. I had to be with Annie. That's how I felt. I had to touch base with her. So I left Honest and I came here. I was teaching a class that night. I taught. I went home and I sat to meditate. But I sat with all of that, my whole heart in it. I mean, I love this young woman. Really, she was my child. And I lifted my hands up to offer her up to God and the gurus, saying, please take care of her. Please watch over her. The next thing I knew, in a moment, it was an hour later, and my hands were still up. And I mean, it was just, you look at the clock and it's like, is this happening? I called her the next morning. And I'm telling this is a big story, but for a reason, for many reasons. And she used to call me Aunt Sal. She said, Aunt Sal, I can't believe you're calling me. You won't believe what just happened, but I'm not going to tell you because you'll think I'm crazy. I said, Annie, I would never think you're crazy. So she tells me this story. She says to me, last night you came to me in what everybody would tell me is a dream, but it wasn't a dream. I know it wasn't a dream. And you picked me up and you carried me downstairs, but you were holding me too tight. You were hurting me, she said. And I wanted to say to you, Aunt Sal, you're hurting me, don't hold me so tight. But then she said, the thought came to me that I was being loved, like I might never be loved again. So I didn't say that to you. And we sat downstairs, and then you carried me, she's a big grown person, upstairs and put me back to bed. So I said to her, do you remember what time that was? And sure enough, it was exactly that hour. Exactly. Now, who can explain? That is just God's grace. But the reason the story came to me right now is when we pray for resolution of something, anything, with that, I don't know if I've ever prayed that hard before or since, I'm not sure. But with that kind of intention, so whatever it is we're going through, nothing's big or small to God. It's not that way. It's just it's his child. And when we pray, it's not like he's thinking through, gee, what should I do? It's this energetic connection and commitment. We are not just his, but him. It has to resolve. So I'm saying all of this to say we practice with that so that we get better and better at learning how to connect with the divine and learning how to get ready to receive the answer. And it is a practice. We're not all inherently good at it. So much of the spiritual life is like that. we have to consciously, with our human mind, practice these things, because we've spent millions of lifetimes not doing that. Am I saying it clearly enough? And it's a big story, but I think it really answers what you're saying. You're being a human being, you're confused about something, or you have questions, or somebody's hurt you, or whatever it is. But it's exactly the same as what happened when my heart just went, oh my God, I have to be with Annie. I had to be with her. So I was taken to her. I mean, and believe me, if somebody else didn't come and pick me up and do it, it would not have looked like that. That's divine intervention. Because of the purity, the sincerity, the depth of the prayer. I don't always pray that way. Usually I pray with an answer in mind, you know? I forget what that joke is that I think Davy tells it, and Asha's repeated it, but about how people want to be with God, but they only want to be with him in a, Rajmi, do you know what I'm talking about? You can't pull it up either. Yeah. Anyway, we want to be giving God guidance. It's not guidance, it's not the word. I was trying to think of the exact word, so I'm ruining the phrase, but you all know what I mean. Usually we already have the answer when we're asking God for something. And it's much, much better if we go with an empty mind. Clear mind with the question, empty mind, heart wide open. And the answer comes, and whatever that is, it's resolved. It has to be resolved, because that's where we're headed. There can't be, we're not going to be left with any problem, no matter how big or how small. It can't work that way. The end of this story is perfection. The end of this story is like any mathematical equation. You know, when it's right, you get the answer, and it's either 0 or it's whatever it's supposed to be. There's no almost in math. It doesn't work that way, right? I mean, it's actually a very good example. It can be 0.0000 off. It's off. So it's either off or on. Same's true with our relationship with God. So that's a big answer, but I think for you